How's it going, everyone? Vlad here with SolusPLC.com. Today what I've got in front of you is a retentive timer on instruction, and what we're going to be building in this tutorial is a retentive timer using a T-on instruction, which is a quite common PLC programming interview question and something that I believe you should be able to do with your knowledge of basic PLC programming. Without any further delay, let's get started. So as I mentioned, we can enable this timer 3 enable XIC bit, and you'll see the timer count all the way to 10 seconds. If I disable this bit, by the way, if you're looking onto the shortcut, that's Control T. If we right click this, you'll see that it's the toggle bit selection that I'm making with the Control T shortcut. That being said, as you've noticed, the accumulated value of the RTO instruction specifically is not going to reset back to 0, unlike the T on and T off instructions. So this is extremely useful in very specific scenarios. As an example that I can give you from my professional experience, when you're filling a certain vessel, so this could be an ingredient tank, you typically want to track the time that you're filling the tank, but you also want to stay at that same level because you've already put in that amount of ingredients. So if the valve shuts off, you've already filled for 6 seconds, and you don't want to bring that back to 0 and fill for another 10 unless you empty the tank. That being said, you can toggle the instruction and it's going to resume counting from that point on. Now, an interesting question that can be made is, how can we build this using just the T-on instruction? And there's going to be a couple of approaches. So we're going to create a new rung, and we need to, first of all, we need to enable the instruction as well. So I'm going to add an XIC instruction, and then we're going to require to move the timer value into a separate register. So here I'm going to add a branch, and we're going to add a timer. So this is the T-on instruction that's going to actuate. I'm just going to create a timer number 4. So we've got a blank timer to work with. New timer 4, type timer. In rapid tutorials, click on create. I'm going to immediately set that to 10,000 milliseconds, just so we can have something to compare to. And now we need to think, so once this is enabled, so this is timer 4 enable. Once this is enabled, we need to put the value back into the timer, but once this is disabled, we also need to store the value. So in order to put the value in, we can use an instruction that I have covered already on this channel, which is called the one-shot. So the one-shot, as a reminder, is going to execute once this timer 4 enable XIC instruction is going to execute for a single time when this rung is read. So here what I can put is a move instruction, and we can use this to put the value back into the timer accumulated register. So I'm going to put this timer, that accumulated register, and here let's say timer 4 retentive. That's going to be my register from which I need to put the value from, and that's going to be a double integer, as you can see here. This requires a boolean, so timer 4 ONS one shot, right click, a new timer one shot, boolean, create. And last but not least, as I've been saying, we need to create something that's going to save the value every single cycle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a move instruction. So here we're going to add a move instruction, and we're going to store timer 4 dot accumulated into the register every single scan time. So let's just test this out, complete the rung, and let's see if we got it right. So I'm going to enable this bit, the timer begins counting, the register is updating. If I stop the enable, you'll notice that we've saved the value of the timer that was the most essentially recent. And so here I can swap the move and the T-on instructions to get the last value, but that's not extremely important because that's purely scan time. That being said, we have stored this 4,480. Once I resume this, we're going to perform a single move into the accumulated value, and the timer should resume from there. So if I toggle it, as you can see, the timer resumes counting all the way to 8,000. If I toggle it again, the timer goes back to 0, but we've stored the retentive value of the timer, and thus we are able to resume counting from that specific value once this rung is re-enabled. So this is just something that you need to be aware of. Obviously, it's not extremely practical to do it this way, but you can use the timer or the accumulated value of your timer in other specific cases in PLC programming. That being said, this entire run can be replaced by an RTO instruction, and something that you need to be very familiar with. And that's essentially the inner workings of RTO if it was to be broken down into ladder logic. In any case, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you next time.